Hello and welcome back to another episode of One Kick from Glory. I'm joined, as always, by Matthew on my right.
Hey.
So today we're going to have some fun with this week's episode. We are talking about the nearly men. Now, I know for my club, there are so many players that over the years we had lots of high expectations for, high hopes for, and sadly didn't make it. We're going to have this as a little back and forth just to kind of list off some of the players that we've thought about over the years. But I want to start with you, Matthew. Who's the first player that came to mind when I sent this message to you saying, let's talk about the nearly men, the players that could have made it big for our clubs, didn't make it big. What name came to mind when I posed that to you?
Fernando Torres.
Ish.
Let's start off with the big one. Let's start off hard, mate. It was Fernando Torres coming off of that, that spell he had at Liverpool where you watched him and he was an absolute devil every time in that box, scoring from every angle, scoring in every game. I mean, he especially loves scoring against us, which I think is why we bought him in the first place, for him stopping scoring against us. But I don't know what version of Torres that we got in return, because he was nowhere near as potent, he was nowhere near as effective, and nowhere near as, almost hungry to try and get and find that form that he had at Liverpool. Don't get me wrong, he did score a very important goal, that we're all going to talk about, back in Barcelona. But considering what we got at the time when we were the reigning champions, it was halfway through the January transfer window, and I think we're still kind of chasing down a second back-to-back title in 5 years. And it just came to nothing. We fell with a bit of a whimper. It was a bit of a dry year, considering you had Didier Drogba, who won the Golden Boot previous year, and Fernando Torres in the same team, and you couldn't even master that much of a title defence. So, and let's not forget the elephant in the room. At the time, guys, 50 million was a lot of money. It still is, but when you're getting that for Fernando Torres, you're expecting kind of something in return. It could have been one of the biggest bargains of the century, because I don't know how much they paid Atletico Madrid for Liverpool, how much they paid for him to get him there a couple of years previously. But and I think he never, even when Drogba left and he was our kind of main striker, he still never got out of that shadow, and we replaced him with the likes of Demba Ba and Samuel Eto'o, for crying out loud. So it's almost as if, whereas like you're not enough, despite what the legacy you've left behind in Liverpool and even at Atletico, an exciting young Spanish striker who was quick, who could head, who could shoot, who could create, being replaced with, one hit wonder Demba Ba from Newcastle, and an aging Samuel Eto'o is going to do anything to anyone's confidence. So despite his trophy haul, really and truly behind the scenes, it was a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a shame. Like, you never want to have a player coming in and they just don't live up to their own expectation, their own standards. And I know with Torres, it was a disappointment for everyone except Liverpool fans. Maybe Liverpool a little bit because, you sold him, and you flopped at your rival. So it's not so much for the way he left was kind of like diminished. But yeah, that's a big one. My first player I'm going to name. I've got quite a few players. I'm not going to name the obvious ones just yet. We'll get to them soon. I'm actually going to name Japanese international midfielder Junichi Inamoto. Signed him in 2002 off the back of the World Cup. He looked great at the World Cup. He never landed at Arsenal. We're still waiting for him to arrive.
Such a shame, because he came with such pomp and such reputation, and Japanese football at the time was just so exciting, because you had him, and I think it was Nakata as well. There was that one guy who played for Celtic who could it was a guy who played for Celtic. He's never really, a bit of a whimper as well. Poor Inamoto as well. Great name by the way. Great name by the way. Why don't you getting that on the shirt? But yeah, one of the failed purchases of a poor Arsene Wenger. So where did he go in the end?
After us, he had a good career at Fulham. Also went on to Galatasaray and then Rennes. He's still playing right now.
Is he?
34. He's still playing in Japan. So, Inamoto. It's just a shame it didn't quite work out. I mean, it was great for us in terms of breaking into. Well, I want to say breaking into the Japanese market, because just us having Arsene Wenger alone was a big kind of flip and a big positive for our exposure over there. But I think if his career had worked out the way they were believing, that would have been a great selling point and a great kind of forward progression for the future Arsenal. Who's your next Chelsea guy?
I'm going to do two because they came in the same year, and it's a year that I want to forget, but we're going to go back there. We're going to go brutal, guys. So get ready. It's not going to be easy for the next few seconds. Falcao and Pato in the same year.
I always forget that Pato was at Chelsea. And in fact, I got something to say about him a bit later. But yeah, I always forget that you actually signed him.
I just remembered it just now because I remember Falcao because I think he was it after his stint at Man United or was it before? I think it might have been after his stint at Man United because we were the reigning champions at the time where I think we just walked our way to a title, but problems started to come by in the game that we actually won a title against Crystal Palace. We were meant to blow them away because our team is one of the tightest teams we've had I don't think we've had a tighter team since probably when Conte won the Premier League, but problems started to show. And the next season came, and then all the drama with the physio and Jose Mourinho, and then we just started dropping tools like it was nothing and losing left, right, and centre. We got in the likes of Pato and Falcao, but particularly Falcao because he had a bit of a reputation already. I think he was instrumental in beating us in the Super Cup back in 2012. And how did he return our favour of coming to Chelsea? With a big, fat, stinking 0. Not a single goal for, I know you're probably coming off of a bad time for Man United, but yeah, it's still Falcao for crying out loud. And I think after that, we went back to, I can't remember where he went. He was firing again.
Yeah, he went back to Monaco, and then from Monaco, he went on to Galatasaray. But yeah, he scored a goal for you.
He did score a goal.
10 games, 1 goal.
10 games, 1 goal.
Only 1. But I guess it just doesn't really count for anyone.
It's so forgettable. That year, that 15, 16 years, like it's almost one of those things like Fight Club. We do not talk about it because it was just, and it was a black time, very dark, bleak time, and those two players kind of represent everything that was wrong with that season. Everything that was wrong. Not even hitting could get us back into the top 6. Poor. So yeah, I'm going to do 2 because it was brutal. So yeah, so it's fine, guys. It's all done.
So let's talk about Pato. Ultimately, I think when you look back on he's playing in America right now, and he's, I think he shared a few tweets looking back on his career and just like being grateful for the life he was able to have anyway, and the other things in life that he's been blessed to have had. But he's one of those footballers that you will look back on as one of the nearly men. So immensely talented. The things he was doing as a youngster in Brazil, even when he went over to AC Milan, there's just the hope of here we go. The next great Brazilian has arrived, and just injuries have just robbed us of, an incredible career. He's had a good career,
but not an incredible
career. And he's 2 stops lower than what he should have been.
I think he came into a really poisonous environment because the players kind of found tools literally to get Mourinho out, and it took us a very long time to actually pick up and get back to eventually a somewhat of extremely mediocre 10th place finish. Like you said, the injuries didn't help, but it just goes to show if we had that bit more of a nurturing environment to explore one of the most exciting talents at the time, he probably would still be with us. We probably would have locked him down at a crazy price. But imagine, he could have been taking on from like Hazard, because Hazard was, we were always wondering, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? I mean, obviously didn't go for another 3 years or so. But yeah, it was just really upsetting to see. I did feel sorry for him. I mean, I don't feel sorry for Falcao because he was already an established player. But Pato, he had places, could have gone so differently. So differently for him.
Yeah, it's just a shame that he just wasn't able to hit those heights. It's a shame he just wasn't able to, to make it. My next player, I'm going left field a bit. I'm going to pick the obvious one. I'm saving my obvious ones, but I'm going left field. This is a player who anyone that's an Arsenal fan that knows about the Arsenal Youth Academy, we know about. There's 2 players in particular where everyone knows about. One made it to the first team. This guy didn't. I'm talking about Arturo Lupoli. Him and Nicholas Bentner, the partnership they formed back in youth level, it was ridiculous. The goals that man was scoring for us back then, incredible. Never made it. Never ever made it. He's back in Italy playing in the B division. But it's just a shame. He never was able to translate that ability to senior football. I think he had some bad loans as well, which didn't really help him. And he also got homesick after a while when he was on the verge of breaking into the first team. I remember between the 2 of them, I rated him way higher than Nicholas Bentner. And in fact, when Bentner got to the first team before him, I was disappointed. I thought, come on, Lupoli is way better. But hey, Arsene knew better at that point in time. Yeah, that's mine, Arturo Lupoli.
Good old Bentner. Didn't he didn't he was like saving himself as like Barcelona and Real Madrid at one point? He was saving himself for like one of the two best teams in the world. I mean,
Bentner.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lord Bentner. Shout out
Lord Bentner. I mean, he was decent. He was decent, but I just don't. I think when I looked at him sometimes, when looking at Arsenal play, because when he was there at the time when you were playing like fancy football, so you weren't necessarily winning, but to watch, you were the ones to watch because you were playing like, you had the likes of Clive, you had the likes of Gilberto, Javinho, you had Riziki, was it Eduardo da Silva, I want to say?
Yeah, Eduardo was here at that time, yeah.
Yeah, injury play, great player though. He was there at that time. I just look at him thinking like, you're a bit stiff, like almost like you should be playing with somebody else. But I think he got one good goal return one time. But
I mean, Bentner will always be a cult hero. And when I say that, he's not an Arsenal hero. Let's just make one thing clear. But he's a player we will never forget. I remember when he came off the bench against Tottenham in the derby and scored with his first touch from a corner, headed it down, brilliant goal. And he that's the thing with Bentner. He was capable of providing moments like that, those crucial goals, just being effective. It's just that he never really kicked on.
No.
Because he wasn't the quickest, but his height, his physicality, there was another level that we could have gotten out of him. And he just didn't. And he's even admitted it himself. He didn't take his career as seriously as he should have done. And he should have made more of his time at Arsenal. But
yeah, that's true.
Who's next up on your list?
I'm going to go with one of the ones we first won our first Premier League back in 2005, where he came in, kind of stunk, but still won the trophy. I'm going to go, again, a bit left field, one we might have forgotten about, and that's Malachi Kezman.
Okay, before you continue, he is one of those strikers when he was at PSV. They had the Batman and Robin, him and Ian. I was a massive fan of his. Massive fan. So when I heard Chelsea were buying him, I was like, okay, finally, Kezman's coming to the Premier League. We're going to get to see this great striker, test himself at the next level. He's going to be bagging in goals. He's going to be scoring. The goals never came.
I think he scored like, 5? If I'm off the top of the head, I might be very, very wrong. Might be even less than that. But yeah, I think he came in, and what number did he wear, guys? What number? Shout points out there for what number he wore. It's Chelsea, so you all know what he wore. If he flopped, he wore the famous number 9.
Same number as Aubameyang.
Same number as Aubameyang, which I find quite bizarre. Or someone's feeling really brave, or maybe walking under signs or ladders or something. But yeah, another disappointment. But I think we overshadowed it because we won the league the way that we did, and we stormed it. And he had other players around him, like Good Johnson, who stepped up. We had Drogba, who stepped up. We had Jeremy. We had Makelele. It was almost like we kind of let him do his own thing, because I think like he was going to be going anyway, stink out with joy and just go and see it by. But it was disappointing to see that he didn't stay on for at least another season to link up properly with Robin, because Robin, while we got good from him, we didn't get the best of him. But I can't in my heart say that he didn't reach his full potential. He just didn't reach his full potential at us necessarily. He kind of reached that when he got into, but especially at Bayern Munich. Especially at Bayern Munich, got his absolute best years. But yeah, Kezman's got to be number one there. Bit of a disappointment, but he got a Premier League trophy for it, for doing jack nothing.
It lasted one season for you, and he got 4 goals. So he scored more than Falcao.
He did score.
It's not bad.
I could score more than Falcao.
But yeah, it's a bit of a disappointing spell for him, and it's just a shame that, like you said, he wasn't able to translate over, the promise that what you'd hoped for.
Yeah.
From the Dutch league into the Premier League. My next player, I'm going a bit fun now. I'm picking a guy who he's retired now. He retired on his own terms. He fell out of love with football. Going over to England. English player now. It's Mr. David Bentley. Now, David Bentley. Now, the thing with David Bentley is that when his time in the Arsenal academy, it's just a shame. I think his playing career, it's like he was in the wrong generation of youth players coming through, right? It's kind of similar to the discussion you could have about Neymar in terms of like, he's kind of in like, it's a shame that his career peak is while Ronaldo and Messi were still in a part of their peak and starting for it to dip out. Like, he's never gotten the recognition he deserves. That's Neymar. And with Bentley, when you coming up through the academy, 03-04 season, trying to break through, and it's like you look at that team ahead of you, you ain't gonna get in.
Nah.
Where are you gonna get in? And even he scored an amazing goal in the cup an incredible chip, like off when he against, I think he's at Middlesbrough, but
Yeah,
he's got an incredible
Middlesbrough,
chip,
yeah.
right? And you looked and you thought, technically, this guy, he's got it.
He was
He's
a
got
baller.
something. He's a baller.
He is a baller.
You know, and it's just a shame that because of just a bit of impatience on his side, and just there not being a clear pathway, he decided to leave, wanted to start, make his own way. Obviously, he went on to play for Tiny Tots down the lane, scored an incredible goal.
A goal.
Lobbing Manuel Almunia from the halfway line for Tottenham against Arsenal at the Emirates. So I gave him that. It was an incredible goal, like exceptional technique. But what did you guys have to show for it? Nothing. But anyway, so but yeah, I think for me, I look back on his career and I just think, man, there's more that could have come.
Yeah.
But ultimately, as he said himself, like he kind of fell out of love with football and he retired. I think he retired at age 31.
He was young.
No, maybe 29. It's either 29 or 39, but he
He was
retired
very young
quite
when
young.
he did it. Yeah, he had time to kind of improve. Wasn't he? He was part of that. He went to Blackburn, didn't he? He's the one who went to Blackburn. He was part of that group of ballers. Blackburn had some ballers. They had to go with him, Pedersen, Benny McCarthy. They had Friedel. They had Tugai. That's what had someone else.
They had David Dunn.
David
He was
Dunn.
techie, but always seemed to just kind of, sometimes fall over his own feet.
Yeah, it looked a bit uneasy.
Savage was he was gone by then.
He was gone by
I
then,
think.
yeah. But he had some ballers, and I think he found some of that form when he was there, because that's when they were like punching the door for Europe. And then he left and went on to Tottenham, who were obviously going on their bigger adventure for Europe. But it might, that pressure, that when you're falling out of love with football, one of the worst things you can do is try and get it somewhere else where the spotlight's just that little bit bigger, because they were on to punching that hole. Never mind they're in the Europa League, or back then the UEFA Cup, punching on for the Champions League. I just think like it was a bit too much of a powder keg for him, because Blackburn in comparison were a bit of a smaller club, but he could have he made himself as an established name there. He established himself pretty much at Blackburn Rovers. So, and he was such a great talent. Such a great talent. I just forgot about him, but his dead ball was like, he could have been like Beckham-esque.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times the media did kind of dub him the next Beckham, and that was sort of the the name that was being put towards him. But unfortunately, he didn't quite make it.
Yeah.
Who's next on your list?
And this is one I've seen it recently. I'm going to go with the route that you've done. We'll go for one of our youngsters. To be fair, I could go for a lot of our youngsters, because the Chelsea academy is good, but it's cruel, because you can cripple sometimes. I can go for likes of Josh McEachran. There was Sam Hutchinson, who had to retire for a really bad injury. But I'm going to go for one that did make it. He did play for the team, but he ended up functioning somewhere else, and as a result has now got a place in the England team. And I like this player. I think he's fantastic, and I wish we kept him. And that is Fikayo Tomori.
Ooh. See, that's a hard one though, because
I wish. I'm not saying that, but it's not his fault. It's not his fault why he didn't make it. It's not his fault. He just wasn't selected. But now seeing what he's doing over at AC Milan, in another well-established team, I just wish we saw. That was one thing that Frank Lampard got right, was playing him. One thing that he got right, and especially after that we had
the only thing.
one of the only things. I mean, come on, I take him over Malang bloody Sarr any day of the week. I just wish, because Tammy, he got somewhat of a chance. I think he was our top scorer at one point. Mason's definitely got a chance. Reece got a chance. Gallagher's lately getting a chance. It would have been nice to see him. I think he would have done good in our back line, to nice as he. But on the opposite side, we've got Trevor Chalobah, but through no fault of his own. And I don't think he's probably ever come back to Chelsea. I think he's very happy very, very happy in Italy. I think he's won in the Serie A last year after God knows how long, and an England spot. I don't think he needs to come back at some point. But if through no fault of his own, it's a controversial one, very controversial one. I'm going to say him, but I'd like to have him back. I'd love to see what more he could do.
Do you feel like that ultimately is one of the big failings of your team? The fact that there's been so many talented youngsters that you have, for one reason or another, not given an opportunity to make it into the first team, who have then gone on to be successful elsewhere, or even players that you've signed and you've been a bit too impatient with them. I mean, there's two that come to mind very quickly. Maybe they will come up later, but do you feel like that way, that your model as a club needs to change now for what you want to do going forward?
If we're going to go along the line saying we have the best academy in the world, we need to start proving it. And for one point, a couple of years ago, we did. Because at the time when we couldn't sign anyone, we lost our best player in Eden Hazard, and we still had some aging stars around him. I like to think we got what, a cup final and top 4 finish with nothing but of our youngsters. Of course, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to be impatient. But actually, at the time, it was actually quite exciting because this was the first time in a very long time that this was something completely and utterly different. We couldn't just simply write a check and solve our problems. We had to work with what we got. And to be fair, I was really impressed and happy. I was impressed with what we got. We got, of course, with the level of expectation we had, it was never really going to carry on. But it was good to see that, even without all the money, we're still good for a top 4 finish. But and this is something new we could have gone on with, be a bit more sustainable, and for a few years' time, maybe down the line, start to build around it, work around it, have some proper ingrown talent that we have grown from our own stock, how they used to do back in the day, back in how it used to be before the money came in, and prove a point. That would have been such a dynasty to start with. Can you imagine doing that and winning your first FA Cup for after, 3 or 4 years with just those players, and then going on and on and on and on and on? You establish something great, and something that's as great as it was when winning all these trophies. To establish a legacy is the ultimate goal. That's what you want, is legacy, is history, heritage, something like what Real Madrid have, basically, pretty much. So yeah, hopefully something that changes under Todd Bowley eventually.
Well, I think that's the next stage, isn't it? I mean, we talked a lot in our previous podcast about the importance of football heritage, and you only get that from, it's built over time. Mm-hmm. Winning stuff matters, how you win stuff matters, but it's a time thing, and that's why clubs like Paris Saint-Germain, like Manchester City, to an extent yourself as well, because you would be in that bracket. Mm-hmm. You've not been around long enough. You don't have that breadth of history in terms of success in the modern era. And obviously we can look back and your club has had success over the years, but it's going to take a while for you to be in the conversation of to become a legacy club. It's going to take a long time. Probably will never be one, but you might have to carve out a new category for yourselves to have that seat. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, Tomori, I think it's just a crying shame the way how he was allowed to leave. And let's be honest, Chalobah's okay, but he's nowhere near the level that Tomori was at when he was playing for you. You mentioned Sarr. We don't need to go there anymore. We know how bad he is. I mean, it's just terrible. Absolutely. But speaking of players who, the level wasn't quite right, I'm now going to mention a guy who I think a lot of Arsenal fans look at with rose-tinted glasses. Now, depending on, there's some clips of him circulating on social media the past week, and people were saying, "Oh, look." They said, they were saying this guy was better than Jack Wilshere. And I was like, no. Man, I'm talking about is Abu Diaby. A player that I have a lot of time for. And it's a shame that he got those injuries. They messed up. Like that Dan, your last name's forgotten. Irrelevant Dan.
From Stoke?
That Sunderland, he broke his ankle the first time. He's now not working. He's not a footballer anymore, but that first tackle and everything went downhill from there. I think Diaby was a player that, let's be honest, when he was fit...
He was a monster.
No.
He was good.
Hold on. No. Hold on. No. When he was fit, he was so frustrating because he was so unpredictable. He would have some games he would play like a donkey, and the next game, it's like Vieira 2.0. So that's the issue. So that people talk about the Liverpool game, when we beat them 2-1 at Anfield, and Cazorla scored. Diaby was a monster. There's a game against Aston Villa, the season prior to that, Diaby was unstoppable. But that's all we have from him. There's moments. There's not been a consistent run of games when he was like playing at a 7 or 8 out of 10. He averaged either 3 out of 10, 4 if you're being kind, to 8.5 out of 10. There was no middle ground. The guy there was no baseline performance. It's just either exceptional or really
bad.
So yeah.
I think he had that. I think the whole Vieira thing, he had the look of Vieira really and truly. I think it's like he almost modelled what he did after Vieira. But I remember that tackle and just never... Didn't he have another really bad injury after that as well? Or just kept on coming?
It was just continuous niggles. So after the ankle snap, it was just continuous. I mean, he had injuries on both legs, all the different muscles and bones. And he just had injuries, all like foot injuries, bone injuries, muscle injuries. He just had so much surgery, so many injuries.
He was unlucky.
I mean, I think even a good game that he played for us was against the 06-07 Carling Cup final, Arsenal-Chelsea, where you guys won. But Walcott scored
Walcott
scored
scored.
an incredible Omri-esque goal. But Diaby looked great in it. He also had the instant when he tried to kick racism out of football, but that's neither there. But yeah, like a player that unfortunately never had the career that he should have had. And that's through injuries. But yeah, he's definitely a nearly man for me. But yeah.
Ball bugger as well, man. I had my next player. We going to my next player?
Yes, I did.
Oh, who was my next player? I had it in my mind. I think it might have been more of a, all right, I know, because he had 2 spells and nothing came from it. Let's go obvious again. Lukaku.
Oh!
Let's do it. Let's go for it. Were you waiting for it? Were you waiting for me to say it?
Lord,
Two spells. The first one wasn't his fault. The second one very much was. He came in 2012 and he was 19 and he was built like an ox. He was like, we are modeling you on the next dropper. He was an absolute monster. And that's I think was where the issue was. I think, again, you had Torres, who was filling in that Drogba role, and then you had him coming in as a new youngster from Belgium. So striking wise, yes, we had 2, one certified and one rookie. But unfortunately, it was a case where we got exposed to the team that we really were after winning that Champions League. We're running on pure emotion. Everything was on our side. And we got turned at the first opportunity we had in the Super Cup by a much better team. And in just the fact that in between time, whenever he's been our player, he's had better stints everywhere else. When he was on loan, he had better stints at West Brom. He had better, and particularly at Everton. Then he went to United and so. Then he went on to Inter Milan. Then we bought him back 10 years later, thinking things were going to get better. It didn't. It's almost as if it seems like the one place he can't really seem to land it was at Stamford Bridge. And I remember it started off well when he came back. He scored in his first game back. He was scoring a few goals. Then they just stopped coming. It's like he rode that wave and thought, oh yes, here we go. Titles come in, all good. Then he went to Italy and did what he did. Now he's back in Italy where he likes it. So.
But do you feel like his failure, because I mean we talked about this on the other podcast, but do you feel like a lot of that comes down to the manager who's not there anymore? But do you feel like the manager could have utilised him a lot better to get more out of him?
I don't think while he didn't want him, it's best, you don't want to want a lot of things, but at the same time, he spent £100 million on a striker with enough talented players to try and find this man. He's a big ox of a guy. Someone's going to find him. You like to, and this is one of the Tuchel's problems was the plan B. What was the plan B? The plan B was to just pass around and wait for the game to kind of peter out, even after scoring only one goal, which never worked and didn't work yesterday under a different manager, but oh well. It would have been nice. I think on both counts, I said this before, where Lukaku could have been that little bit more creative with the players and the system that we had, because they weren't necessarily always playing to his strengths, because we always seemed to have goals coming from everywhere else. Where the last great striker we had was Costa. We always could be able to find him. It almost as if like he was stuck back in the San Siro every single time. And Italy, England played different styles of football. But I think Tuchel, I think he made a mistake there. I know he's not the striker that you want, but he's the striker that you got. So, it's not every day you're going to get a Haaland. By the way, shout out to Haaland on that goal yesterday, the pass and the goal. We can't ignore that. We cannot ignore that. Am I jealous? You're damn right I'm jealous. Damn right I am. 2 spells of Lukaku, nothing to show for it. Well, he did score in the final of the Club World Cup, but splitting hairs here. So yeah, Lukaku, never won and never lived up. Just us.
And I think that's an interesting one. There's one player I'm going to come to who, like a lot of Arsenal, I mean, depending on like how old you are as an Arsenal fan, you'll remember this guy. But the name I'm going to come to beforehand is a player, and then I'm going to bring him up for a good reason. Mm-hmm. He's a defender, and when he first came into the club, we got him, I think we brought him in, and he had some time in the academy, but came to the first team. But when he first came in, he was very, very highly rated, lots of promise. People were expecting a lot from him. He even got compared to the great Tony Adams, which is very high praise. And I think you should be very careful when you compare a player to Mr. Tony Adams. But he met a man that changed his life forever. Not like that. I'm talking about Philippe Senderos.
Oh,
He got absolutely bullied into submission by the great Didier Drogba. Now I bring him up because, again, like I said, he was very highly rated. The coaching staff really believed we had got a gem. He's a very intelligent player, speaks multiple languages, had a good frame to him. Not the quickest, but he had good anticipation. And then Drogba came along. Why did you set your bully loose on our player?
He likes scoring against. He likes scoring against Arsenal. Gosh, I just miss watching Drogba sometimes. Was it that game where he played? Was it the Emirates or was it at Highbury?
It'd been Highbury.
Highbury, the Highbury game there. But I always remember the Emirates one where he scored pretty much 3 goals. It was like Drogba versus Arsenal for such a long time.
Oh no, Drogba didn't play at Highbury.
Didn't he?
No, it'd all be Emirates.
Yeah, I think Highbury was like almost. We never won at Highbury when.
When did Drogba joined in what, 05?
04 or 05.
So he would have played at Highbury.
Yeah,
he would have done. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think.
Oh no! It is the Highbury game I'm thinking of where it started when we were wearing the red currant kit at home.
Yeah, the last season.
Yes,
yeah.
And you were in blue.
And just.
That was the beginning of the end for Felix Senderos, yeah.
What a tank of a man. Oh, God, you such a big shoe. That's how the thing it was. We only really, after Willie Drogba went, I think we only replaced him properly once, and that was with Costa. And even he got 2 Premier League titles, Carabao Cup to show. Could more have come from it? I can't, in my wildest dreams, I could not call him a flop, but it almost felt like there was another gear to kick, but he was too busy having a fight in an empty room with himself, so God knows what goes on there.
Oh, he's back now, back at Wolves, so we'll see how he goes.
You know what, I think that's actually a really good signing. I think it's a great sign. I think he's just he's a character that suits the Premier League to absolute T, a nuisance, a bother, a pain for defences. I don't know when we're playing Wolves, but we don't like playing Wolves anyway, and now we're definitely not going to like playing Wolves. Not looking forward to it at all, but yeah, I can't really say. I don't know what you want me to say about the whole Drogba Arsenal thing. It was great.
No, I mean,
it was great for me. It was great for me.
I was just referring to it because I feel like Senderos' confidence got knocked for a sixpence, and then he never recovered from that moment. And I remember every time going forward when Drogba could just smell the fear on him. He would just stand on him and be like, "Yeah, you're not having a good game today." And within the first 5 minutes, you knew Senderos is gone. Take him off, because he's not competing. Drogba would beat him in the air, beat him on the ground, beat him with the strength. It was terrible.
To watch Drogba, was quite a science experiment. Like just how a specimen like that could just put the absolute fear in so many defenses. I mean, even Graham Souness, the one of the very intelligent things he's actually said was on the lines of, "If there's one guy you do not want to go against, it is Drogba." And you know what? It's true. I love the guy. I wouldn't want to play against him because he's just got such a strength, like a strength of his aura of strength about him. Whenever you see him, he just the way how he carries himself, on the pitch, especially when he's going forward, is that unique ability of taking on defenses. Like his numbers don't add up, but when you watch him, it's a whole different. He's a very much a watch player, because then you see why people sing and wax lyrical about him. Because even though his numbers don't make up in a final, if I want a final, I know who I want, exactly who I want. So that was him. What a great player.
Who have you got next?
So unfortunately, not all strikers do so well when they come, and this was before Drogba. We had another promising striker came in with lots of promise of what he was had to offer to us in the Premier League. This is when we had our new money. We were splashing the cash on God knows what. And then after this, we learned our lesson to where we're putting it. He had one of the biggest falls in football. The biggest falls. I am, of course, talking about Adrian Mutu.
I thought you were referring to him. I didn't want to say anything to kind of throw off the scent.
I knew you had it. Yeah. I knew you had it in mind.
I had a little line about him. But
yeah.
You like that?
I caught the second time. Yeah. He got into the line of duty, so to speak. Don't do it. That's what it was. And it went wrong. Every time I look in the paper, it just kept going wrong and falling down. I mean, the teams he played for after that, I couldn't tell you who they were, but he owed so much money back to so many different people. And he was so good is what the thing was. What was going through his mind? You were getting paid so. Do you know who the owner was? You were going to be set for life, so much money, but I don't know. I think he had too much fun when he was here. Way too much fun. But yeah, such a shame. Such a shame. He was fun to watch. Really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, it's a shame it didn't work out. I remember when he came to the league, the 03, 04
304, the year before, yeah.
Terrorising defenses, such strength, such speed, great technical ability, and his ball striking. He could hit a ball.
He could hit.
And you're like, okay. So I've got another player, flashy feet, a young academy prospect that a lot of us Arsenal fans, when again coming up in that 05, 06 era. When we saw this guy play, we were like, okay, we've got a baller on our hands. Let's just ease him through, and we're going to be laughing. I'm talking about Mr. Quincy Owusu-Abeyi.
Oh,
you know, yeah, mate.
Oh, there were some names back in the day, man. They had some names.
Mate, Quincy was like, it was like obviously Dutch winger. The step over, the guy's feet were like lightning. And he's left you for dead. Like he was so good.
He could dance, man.
He was a dancer. You know, he could give Robinho a run for his money. Just a little bit, a run, not be better than, but give him a run. But yeah, it just didn't work out for him. I just don't understand why he was never able to really cement a place. Went out on a bunch of loans afterwards, Portsmouth, Cardiff, Birmingham. But yeah, his career just kind of fizzled out. It's just a shame. I think it's one of those players I look back on and think, why?
Exciting.
There was so much in those magic feet. Super exciting player.
He was exciting. It's kind of like could be like a bit of a clutch player maybe if you could actually work out what he was doing, because he reminds me of like, say, a Saint-Maximin, and especially like someone like a Balassi as well, with the quick feet and just looking like he's having fun playing it. Unfortunately, having fun when you're playing doesn't necessarily translate to when you're on the pitch, when you need to win a game. And I think he was having too much fun out there, but not necessarily translating into results.
Speaking of Yannick Bolasie, that's one player that streets will never forget, 100%. But also a player that I sort of wish he was part of the Crystal Palace setup now.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, could you imagine adding him into the mix that they've got? It would be. I mean, Zaha would have to play up front, to make it work. But could you imagine Bolasie on the left, Elise inside? Not Elise, sorry. Eze inside, Elise on the right, Zaha up front. Oh, mate,
sauce.
Mate.
Spread that sauce, man.
Craziness.
Crystal Palace, and just youthful, fun, energetic, just unpredictable, raw, young talent. Crystal Palace is the great bed for. Roy Hodgson's got a lot of things wrong, but he didn't get Crystal Palace wrong. And it appears now that Patrick Vieira's doing quite a similar thing. I mean, quite a shame, and maybe to our benefit, but he couldn't get Conor Gallagher. Can you imagine Gallagher in that mix as well? Oof, goals. Never mind at the back, but goals, and just, goals really.
Yeah, it's just a shame that, you know,
It's never came from
what could have been.
Absolutely.
Still a good career to Bolasie. I think he's still playing or looking for a club. But
I think last remember he was at he was at Palace.
Yeah, he was at Middlesbrough after that, and he was at one of the other clubs in the Championship. I'm not sure where he's at now, but yeah, Bolasie definitely one that I think a classic, clever player. I think right now he is playing for a Turkish team, so
It's all going. That's all right then.
still going. He's only 33, so
Not much older than same age
just
as
that
us.
his injuries have messed him up. You know, he was on loan at Middlesbrough last season.
Yeah.
Well, this club and Middlesbrough, so he kind of split his time between the two. But yeah, we'll see how it goes for him. But yeah, we will now. Who have you got next on your list?
How many more are we gonna do? How many more we got?
I say we do one more each, and then we have our controversial take.
Okay. Well,
This one I think will land.
Well, my last one, and this is a guy that had been passed around like a hot potato. You're probably guessing already. He's passed around as a hot potato, and he didn't actually. When he left, we actually saw the potential that he could reach, and even then, he couldn't reach it at a time where this was one of the most exciting front threes in the Premier League that was this close to winning the Premier League. This close to actually winning it, bar result that was actually playing against us, right? So this player right here who I actually really quite admired, but it never really stuck, is Daniel Sturridge.
Oh no,
Daniel Sturridge.
that's my guy, man.
I liked him when he came because first and foremost, he actually came from Manchester City.
Yeah.
Then he came to us, and then eventually he went to Liverpool. So that's 3 teams he's crossed the past who would eventually win Premier Leagues. I don't think he holds one single winner's medal. I'm not entirely sure how right I am about that. He won a Champions League from doing 25% of the work, but then he went to Liverpool, part of that deadly front three, and was inches away from winning a Premier League title. Probably should have won a Premier League title if it wasn't for his captain making his slip against none other than Chelsea. So if there's ever an example of someone who's not reaching their potential at 3 different clubs, never mind us, a painful one, it was him. And he was part of that kind of weird England fold that we had where he could have done just that little bit more, and it just never, injuries killed it as well. Then they bought the likes of Mane, which didn't really help. While he was Chelsea, he was good. He could never really lead the front line with the likes of Drogba being there. I mean, I know at the time we weren't expecting to actually win anything, but it was a lot to put on a young man's shoulders at the time where we didn't actually like playing young players. So it was kind of a bit unfair to be putting that on him. But like I said, he went on to Liverpool and actually, again, part of a properly deadly front three at Liverpool. So yeah, Daniel Sturridge is my last one.
Yeah, he missed out on the title. Was part of Champions League squad for you guys. Didn't play in the final, but he missed out on the title at Liverpool and at Chelsea. It's just a shame. But my last player, and there's so many players I could name for different reasons.
I've got more, but yeah.
But the one I'm gonna go for is another young player. This is a player that when we first signed him, or when he came again, signed him into our academy, came from Spain. All the hype. This guy's Anif Fabregas.
Oh, okay.
He's going to come in and do amazing things. And unfortunately, Fran Merida, it never landed at Arsenal. Never landed. I remember that he scored an amazing goal in the Carabao Cup. I think it was against Liverpool. But he just got, it was in the league against Liverpool, banged the ball in the bottom corner. I was like, oh, hello. He's arrived and just didn't. I mean, another player I'm going to name as well, still playing, my last. He's in the MLS now.
Yeah.
Carlos Vela. Mr. Chips. His ability to chip a ball, like such a deft touch, just to scoop it up and get it over a goalkeeper and drop the ball down dead in the net. Amazing. But again, these two didn't quite make it.
He found his feet in MLS though.
He's amazing in MLS.
He found his feet in MLS.
Yeah. But it just goes to show, sometimes with some players, you need to find the right level to get the best out of your performance. And speaking of that, like, this is an interesting one, right? Because obviously we're talking about Hipinele men that have made it, and you had a point about an international player, or a player on the international stage that didn't make it. Who's that player for you?
He's not a Chelsea player, but this is very controversial. I've had time to think about it, but I'm still convinced that I'm justified in saying it because I think on both sides, on the player and on the nation and as the fans, we have to hold ourselves accountable for why it didn't work. And I'm going to say it right now. Here we go. Wayne Rooney is not an England legend.
Okay.
He's not an England legend. He's a Manchester United legend, but he's not, for me, he's not an England legend. But there's different points from where I'm coming from. First and foremost, from a fan point of view, we can pick moments where things gone wrong to the point where he swore back at the camera, but also to the point that we pushed him at such a young age onto the stage expecting so much from him when striking options at the time were not exactly class leading. We know we had someone like Owen who was riddled with injuries. And then I remember he first broke on the scene when he scored that goal against you for Everton. And in 2004, I mean, people need to remember that Wayne Rooney, when he first came on the scene, was an animal. He was a beast. He was a monster. He was young. He was fearless. He didn't care. I mean, one of the best goals he ever scored was against Newcastle United. He just got booked and he just 35 yards, top bins. Loved it. 2006 is where the problem started because he had that one properly good tournament to establish himself. I think he got to the quarterfinals in the Euros. This was before Ronaldo gate, by the way. Where it started going wrong was 2006, one of the last games of the Premier League against Chelsea. We were already winning the league anyway. This is where the problems started because this was that famous word that we would say for years on years called the metatarsal, where it was a horrific, I think it was a tackle with Paulo Ferreira, really unfortunate injury. All eyes on him for the World Cup in literally 2 months' time. And it would have been safer for him not to come, but he did. At what point do the FA or us have that kind of like take on that responsibility for forcing on? I remember he's still young at that time. He's still very, very young, coming into a Manchester United team, doing really, really well. At what point do we take responsibility for pushing him on there? Because let's be honest, after that, can you name many tournaments where he's actually delivered when we need him to? Yes, he's got us there. He's made the appearances. He scored some of the great goals to kind of push us onto that stage and get us to the tournament in the first place. But let's be brutally honest, from 2004 to 2016, which was his last tournament for England, if I'm not mistaken, in that gap, what came from it? What progress had we actually made? How did we get any better? I think we only made the quarterfinals once or twice, and then sometimes we didn't make it out of the group stage. And there was an embarrassing game against Iceland. Again, I'm not saying it's all his fault. There's all kind of things around it, but I just think like how we hold people to a certain standard. Did we hold him up too high? Was he the best at the time of what we'd got? Did we expect too much of him, or did we make him the team? Was it Wayne Rooney and everyone else?
But you have to remember, he is still our all-time leading goal scorer.
He is an all-time leading.
3 goals away from Harry Kane's behind him, but he is still the number one.
Yeah.
And I think he's like top 3 appearance holders as well. So like, that takes a lot. I think it's an interesting take.
I just feel that if you're talking about someone that could have delivered more on the international stage, he's a fine prime example. Numbers wise, yeah, his appearances and his goals, absolutely. But should more have come from him? Absolutely. And look at the team around him at the time. We had like your Drogbas, your Lampards, your Ferdinands, your Joe Coles, your Crouches, your Paul Robinsons, and we can name Campbell was still there, Ashley Cole, John Terry. Such a high standard, winners in every single position. And I think that's maybe what it is that with that golden generation, we got nothing from it. And now, however you feel about Gareth Southgate, I personally think this is his last tournament. He has to deliver.
I think he shouldn't have this tournament as his last tournament. I think they should get rid of him as soon as possible because we have an opportunity to get to the final.
And win.
Potentially win it, but I'm not backing England for this tournament for multiple reasons. I'm backing a team in yellow this summer, winter.
Number six? Number 6? Yeah, I mean, for me, this is now his last tournament. He needs to learn his lesson, his mistakes. Because for all the good he did last tournament, he got a lot wrong. And the Nations League has not shown much promise. This, for me, is... it hasn't. We got turned by Hungary 4-0. I don't know, man. I'll talk about that. But yeah, we're playing players from all teams, not just the established teams, like your Chelsea's, Arsenal's, and Liverpool's and stuff. We're now playing players from all around other teams around that want to play for their country and actually want to show some kind of effort. And in 2 tournaments alone, we've seen the semi-final and the final. And if you look at the Nations League as well, plus so much more variety of player that we can actually go for. So if Harry Kane's out, we can go for Ivan Toney. If Pickford's not being picked, which he hasn't, we can go to Henderson, we can go to Ramsdale, we can go to Pope. We got all the right backs, all the right backs, too many right backs. Maybe players wing backs, midfield options, forward option, defence options. It never felt like back then when Rooney was part of that fold that we would explore any other option apart from him. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's not so much with him. Maybe it's just the fact that the lack of options that we just refused to acknowledge. I just remember another striker option was Defoe.
Yeah, we had Defoe back then.
Yeah,
you had, thinking about the tail end of his time, you had Sturridge, you had obviously Vardy, towards the tail end of Rooney's time. There's so many strikers that never got an opportunity.
Andy Carroll.
Andy Carroll. Dean Ashton at a point in
Yeah,
time
his
should have been given
injuries,
opportunity to get. I know that he
yes.
got injuries as well, but I think he should have had a chance in the national
sad
team.
for him. So he was a
So
great
I
player.
think you got a point that there was many strikers that were overlooked. Maybe some of them weren't good enough, but
we never knew.
We never knew
because he was the only one. Even after already, what made it worse was, and this was encapsulated not so much in the World Cup of 2014, which was beyond dreadful because we didn't even get out of the blooming group. But I don't think that one was as bad because at the end of the day, you had Costa Rica, Italy, and I think, well, you had someone else in there. But I can get taking losing to Italy. We did it last year after all. The Iceland game, that was when I knew long before that this guy is on the brink of being finished because you had at that season, Premier League season, you had Harry Kane and Jamie Vardy, okay, top 2 English goal scorers, 50 goals. 50 goals in that one in that one season. You would think, a blind man looking the other way would think to start either one or both at the same time. Do you know how many goals in Euro 2016? Do you know how many goals they scored in the tournament? 1.
Unos.
1. But who was up front? He was. You know who was taking corners? Harry Kane.
Yeah.
And I'm blaming him for a lot of things, but there is. I don't think it's all his fault. I think around him, especially the FA, had this boner on him lifting a trophy. But I don't know. Maybe it's just, probably I'm being harsh on it, but yeah.
Well, I think it's an interesting place.
I had my reasons though. I had my reasons.
and I think you've presented a very good case as to why. Very good case. I think we'll call it a day. At that point. Do you agree that Wayne Rooney is one of England's most overrated players?
What was your?
Didn't live up to his full potential for his country? If you do, let us know. Thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you all next time.
Peace out.